Okay, this will be take 3. Alright guys, so we're going to go through the motions of making the robot arm. So first I'm going to file, create a new project, file project window. I'm going to click on new. I'm going to give it a last name, first name, to assignment 3. I'll save this in my desktops. Select, accept. And now I'm going to go into my orthographic camera. I'm going to use my side camera. So spacebar, tap on the spacebar to get to the 4 camera layout, move your mouse to the camera that you want to use, and there we go. So this arm is going to be consisted of, let's see, 3 cubes. Um, let's go here, I'll draw it. So it's going to consist of 3 cubes, 1, that's a sphere, a cylinder, sphere, cylinder, sphere, cylinder, sphere, cube, curved cube that we're gonna alter, and then another curved cube. Um, there we go. So it's gonna consist of 3 cylinders, 4 spheres, and 3 cubes. All right. We're gonna go through the order. We're gonna start from the highest in the hierarchy, so the base here, and then we're gonna work our way up, up the hierarchy. Well, down the hierarchy, but up the claw is what I mean to say. All right. So let's do that. So I'm going to go to my select tool. You can press Q to do that. And I'm going to go tap on poly modeling up here at the top where my mouse is. I'm going to click on the cube. I'm going to actually go to my top camera and I'm just going to scale this out to widen the base. All right, once I've done that, really important as you add things, name it. So this will be base geo. I'm going to go ahead and add a sphere. I'm going to scale the sphere and make it a little smaller so that way when I bring this up, I want the center of the sphere to align with the top face of the square. So what you see here. So notice that my manipulator should align with the top edge of my cube. And notice I'm not offsetting this, I'm just moving it up. I'm not offsetting it along the Z or the X axis because I still want it in the center. I just need it elevated. And now this will be base joint geo. So all the spheres are going to act as joints, all the cylinders are going to act as bones, and we're going to just move up the ladder. So now I'm going to add a cylinder. Go back to this dimension. I'm going to scale it up to however long I want it to be. So R, I'm going to bring it up. And then I'm going to go back to my top camera. You can also have shading on for each of the cameras that you want to use. So typically for the orthographic cameras, I keep X-ray on, but not for the perspective camera because I want to be able to see how it looks, how it would look in camera. But X-ray allows us to kind of see what's behind the other items. And I'm going to take the green square because it'll scale along Z and X simultaneously. I'm going to scale there. Great. And now that I have that done, I'm going to bring this down. And I'm actually going to go, let's see, actually, let's go here. I'm going to scale it a little bit more. There we go. And now I'm going to go to my side camera. I'm going to bring this down and align it to where the bottom faces of the cylinder are matching with the top faces of the cube, as well as the center of the cylinder. And then this will be shoulder bone geo. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this sphere, Control D. is the duplicate action. It's duplicated. It's just going to be in the same exact location as the sphere that you duplicated. And I'm going to just go ahead and bring the center, elevate it to where the center is aligned with the top faces of the cylinder from the previous cylinder. I'll name this shoulder joint geo. I'm going to scale it just a bit, a little smaller. And I'll go ahead and I'll take this cylinder. I'll press Control D. I'm going to just scale it slightly along the y-axis. I'll go to my top camera, scale it slightly more along Z and X. I'll go to my channel box now on the right hand side. Your channel box is here if it's hidden, far right, right below the lock sign. And I'm going to rotate this along the x-axis. Now, if you're using the front camera, it would be along the z-axis. Just note that it varies if you're on a different camera. So I'm going to type in rotate x for 90 degrees. I'm going to press spacebar along the side camera so that way I can isolate this camera. And I'm going to place the center, Alt middle mouse, Alt right mouse drag. I want to place the center of, or the side faces of the cylinder that's now crisscrossing with the previous cylinder. Same thing, I'm just matching this edge to be in the center of the sphere. And now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and add another sphere. Oh, actually, rename it. What am I doing? Elbow, joint, geo. Oh, bone. What am I doing? Bone. Okay. Underscore, bone. There we go. Take this sphere, Control D. Move along the z-axis. And same thing. I'm going to scale it just a wee bit. And then center this along the side of the other end of the cylinder. Alright. Name this elbow. This is elbow joint geo. And now I'll take this cylinder, Control D, rotate it, so bring 90 and zero that out. I'm going to scale a little bit along Y. Center this back to that that sphere that we just made. And then along, I'm going to press R to scale again, and along Z and X, so that green square, I'm just going to scale it just a little bit more. And go back to the side camera and just make sure everything is where I want it to be. Great. And this will be wrist, bone, geo. And then one more sphere, Control D, take the last sphere that we just made, duplicate it, and then bring it down and name this wrist joint geo. Now I'm going to add cubes. I just made a new cube. I'm going to elongate this, and I'm going to go to my perspective camera so that way I can see this a little bit better. And I'm just going to narrow this along Y and X. Okay, great. So you could do this a few ways. If you want to make sure that the subdivisions are even, you can go with the cube selected. You're going to go to the attribute editor. I don't know why that became really, really large and it's extended. All right, so I have my attribute editor. I'm going to go to Polycube 2, and you'll see here the different subdivisions. So if I type in 3 where it says subdivision depth, if you're on a different camera, it's going to change. So if you're on the Z camera, it's going to be, I believe, width. So if I type in 3 here, guys, no, it would be. So, um, so you would see them on the other side of that sphere. So that's the only thing. All right, so I'm actually going to type in for depth, for subdivision depth, uh, we'll do 4 so we have a line of symmetry there. And then now I'm going to close this tab. And I'm going to frame this by pressing F. And I'm going to go into vertex mode. Drag select these vertices. Rotate. Bring down. Rotate. Oh, bring down. Make sure to grab by a specific axis. So in my case, I'm grabbing along X. And do not just grab from the middle, because then you'll move along more than one axis, which I don't recommend doing. Okay, that's pretty good. And so now, go into object mode. I'm going to rotate this and bring this as like a neutral position. So right around there, like almost like this, where Y looks like it's pointing as a 45-degree angle. The other thing to note, when we do rotate, let's say if we're rotating from here, it's rotating from the center. So what we want to do is have the rotation, instead of it being here at the center, we need it here at this sphere. So we need to move the pivot point of this object. And so to do that, I'm going to press W, turned on for the move tool. I'm going to hold down the letter D, and notice my manipulator changes, and I'm going to just bring this up. Great, and bring it at the center of the sphere. I'm going to release D, and there we go. So now if I rotate, huzzah, we're there. I'm going to name this Claw Geo 01 underscore 01. And so now when I duplicate this, Control D, then it should be Claw Geo 02, which is great. I'm going to rotate this. All right. So I have it in the same location. So now I have everything named. This is a good time to increment and save. Give this a name, last name, first name, assignment 3, save. And now before anything else, what we need to do, you'll notice each of these items, we have transformations and numeric values shifted from the default value. Before we do any parenting, we need to freeze transformations, meaning that we zero out all these values or default these values back to 1 for scale and 0 for rotations and for translations. But the location of these items stay in the same place of your scene, okay? Because we need them there. So what we're going to do, we're going to drag select all of the geometry. You're going to highlight from translate X to scale Z on the words. You're going to hold down your right mouse button and you're going to go to freeze and you're going to go to all. Aha. So notice now, double check before parenting, press Q so that way you're on a select tool. Go through all these and look and make sure everything is zeroed out in your channel box and scale is at 1 for all of the channels. Really, really important. I cannot stress that enough. Now that you have that, now we're going to take all these geometries and we're going to middle mouse drag it to their respective parent in the geometry. Meaning that this sphere is a parent to these two claws. This claw is a child to this cylinder. This cylinder is a child to this parent, which is the sphere, and so on and so forth. So we're going to go from the smallest item to the largest item. So we're going to take these two claws, both of them at the same time, middle mouse drag them into wrist joint geo, which is the sphere. And so now you should see them in here. When you select it, everything should highlight below it. Same thing, we're going to take wrist joint geo, middle mouse drag it into wrist bone geo, which is the cylinder. So now when I select this, there we go. Same thing. So now take this cylinder, middle mouse drag it to this sphere. Aha. Now this sphere, middle mouse drag it to this cylinder. And I'm holding down my middle mouse like a button. That's why we need the middle mouse, three button mouse. Take this bone, this cylinder, middle mouse drag it to this sphere. Aha. Middle mouse drag. Middle mouse drag. And notice when I'm middle mouse dragging, you should see the dotted lines at the top and bottom before releasing. There we go. And that's it. Well, not that's it, but that's it for the character creation, if that makes sense. So now what we need to do is create controls because we don't want to animate on geometry. So we need to set up handles and controls in order to add keyframes to those items. So we're going to use curves under curves and surfaces. So I'm going to add a circle. There it is. And this is going to represent the base. So this is going to be the master control. So you don't have to do this. This is just my little thing of making this match more of the shape that it's representing. So I'm going to hold down my right mouse button, go to control vertex, and I'm going to just select all the control vertices that are adjacent to the sides. And I'm going to take these, I'm going to scale them in. That's it. All right. Great. And I'll name this base control, master control. I'm going to add another sphere, circle. And this is going to center, let's go here to this camera. And this is going to center around this sphere. Make sure to center this. Bring it up. I'm going to enlarge it. And this will be base control. Control D. Bring it up. Scale just a little bit. And this will be shoulder control. Control D. Center it as best you can. Scale it down. But still making sure that there's space outside of the geometry. Double click into the outliner, and then we're gonna rename this as elbow control. Last item, Control D, wrist control. Scale down a little bit, and rename this as wrist control. There we go. All right. Oh, I hit a keyframe. Why did I do that? Don't do what I did. Delete. There we go. Okay. So now that we have everything, same thing that we did before, we're going to take all of these controls. You can shift select them in your outliner. Highlight these. Before any parenting, you need to freeze transformation. Because what it's gonna do is if your freeze transformation and you have, let's say, an adjustment in scale, it's going to stretch and add on to the values that you already have. Um, so we need to reset these and get them back to 0 and 1. So highlight from Translate X to Scale Z, hold your right mouse button, freeze, release on all, perfect. And now what we're going to do, we're going to make a parent constraint. So the parent constraint does the same thing that we did in the outliner. The only difference is just a newer, it's just a different setup, right? It's just a different method. Um, and in this case, when we're making constraints, we select the parent first. And in this case, the parent is this control, the circle that's highlighted right now. The child is the geometry, right, which is this. So we're going to select the parent first, hold down the shift key, select the child, which is the sphere, click on parent constraint under the rigging tab, right where my mouse is, parent constraint. If you hover over your mouse, you should see a little hint at what this tool is. You're going to click. Great. Deselect in an empty space, click here, rotate, and just double check that it's moving. Press Z so that way nothing is maintained as far as values. You want to keep things at a neutral value. We're going to do the next item, which is the elbow. Select the control, hold down the shift key, select the sphere, parent constraint. Now deselect, select the elbow control. We have a problem here. So all we need to do is take the wrist control here, middle mouse drag it into the elbow control. So now select the elbow control. There we go. Next thing, shoulder control. Select the shoulder. Always press Q because if you have the rotate tool on, you can't select through it. So press Q to get into select mode. Hold down the shift key, select the shoulder sphere, parent constraint. Same thing, we're going to take the elbow control, middle mouse drag it into the shoulder control that you just parented. Next one, base control. Select the controls, hold down the shift key, select the sphere, parent constraint. And now middle mouse drag shoulder control that we just had before into the new base control. And then the last one, master control, select the control, hold down the shift key, select the geometry, which is the cube in this case, parent constraint. And now middle mouse drag the base joint, base control into the master control. So now you can do a little test. Z. Z. Okay. And that is the generic rig. I'm going to go ahead and do the set driven key here. So the set driven key, what we're going to do, we're going to add a new attribute here in the wrist control. So that way you can only just open and close this as one unit. So that way you don't have to double the amount of movement for the claw. So it makes things easier as far as animation. So we see it a lot with more complex characters, like jaw open is a channel, cupping the hand, finger spread is its own channel. It just makes life a lot easier as an animator. So what we're going to do to add an attribute or a new channel to what already has default channels of Translate X and Scale Z, all of the above, we're going to go to the attribute editor with this wrist control selected, which is right here. I'm going to click on attributes and click on add attribute. I'm going to give it a name of claw. Keep it as a float, keep it as scalar. The minimum is going to be -10 and the positive is going to be 10. The default neutral is going to be 0 and I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to close out the attribute editor, but now you should see a new channel here. Haha. This is a good time to increment and save your scene. Alright, so let me pause real quick. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to add a set driven key. And so the set driven key, um, we're telling Maya the range of motion for this channel. So what the motion position would look like for 10, and what would the minimum be for -10, and what would that be, whether it's a close or an open. So we're going to click on set driven key, which right here under the rigging tab is the orange icon with the chain link here. A window is going to pop up, which will look like this. And you'll notice we have terminology similar to parent and child. In this case, it's driver and driven. Well, who drives, parent or the child? I mean, I know it's South Florida, but theoretically speaking, it is the parent, right? So, and in this case, the driver or the parent is the control. So we do have right now the risk control in the driven section, which is where it's not supposed to be. So with the control selected, we're going to click on load driver. There it is, perfect. And now these two claws, hold down the shift and select both of them. And we're going to click on load driven. Do not add the sphere, it is just the claw cubes. And so now we're going to ensure that this claw channel, so we're going to highlight claw, we're going to click on claw Geo2, and in this case the rotation that we're going to be adjusting is rotate X. If we look at the axis orientation here, rotation for this movement will be on X alone. So with claw Geo2 and rotate X selected, I'm going to now hold down the shift key and select claw Geo1, and now hold down the control key, release on shift, and also select rotate X. And we're going to hit key because right now control is set as 0. So we're basically telling Maya this is what 0 should look like. So we're going to hit key. Now we're going to go back to the claw control here. And we don't need to worry about anything here as far as what to select. It's already selected for us. Now we're going to go to the claw control. We're going to go to 10. And now we're going to select the claw cubes and rotate them out and show us what maximum 10 should look like. Okay, so we have it at, we'll do 50. We'll go to this claw cube, rotate it out. This should be -50. So that way it's like even, not like, but you know what I mean. And now we'll hit the word key. So now we've adjusted what the open will be at 10. I'm going to deselect. Now I'm going to select the control again and type in -10 where it says the claw channel. And you'll notice it goes back to neutral because we haven't set what the close position should look like. So now I'm going to press Q, select the cube, click on rotate, and rotate it to where I think close would look like. So this is going to look like -23. I'll type in 23 for this one. It can get a little. So let's try 30. And I'll try -30 for this one. There we go. That looks better. And now I just hit key. Once I do that, I'm going to hit close, deselect, and click on the claw channel. And now I'm going to middle mouse drag this. What? I know, I know, I know. Perfect. All right. And that is your rig. So please make sure to increment and save. Another thing to do is to kind of clean up your rig. So the master control is fine as is for the most part. I mean, you can't really scale is the only thing. So you can deselect, drag select scale. Go to, you can at least just do lock selected if you don't want to hide it. Or make selected non-keyable. But I'm going to go at least to lock selected. And then for all of these controls, everything but rotation is going to be locked. So I'm going to lock, translate, and scale. with the exception of the wrist control, which would have the claw channel. Okay. Okay, and there we go. So this helps with, not moving things because this isn't meant to be translation. It's solely rotations. Um, with the exception of the master control because we need to adjust and place our character and our rig in a place of the scene in terms of composition. Another thing to make sure as you start animating, turn off select surface objects so that way you're not clicking on polygons. You're only selecting the curves that you're going to animate on. So this is it. And so now go ahead, file, increment, and save. And huzzah, that is your rig.